Next week marks the 20th anniversary of the discovery of the first cases of AIDS. And to mark that milestone, we begin a series of special reports. Today's is directed toward those who live with the disease or the threat of HIV. CNN's Maria Hinojosa hears one man's story of survival.
Nestled in the quiet of the Pennsylvania mountains is the home of a survivor. 3 times a day, 42-year-old Sean Strube gulps back 15 different colored pills.
That's it for now.
Sean has been living with AIDS for 20 years.
My doctor, who was a friend, said, look, Sean, these days, you could still have 2 good years left.
At first, he was angry.
At the peak of the most angry activism I was involved with, I only wanted to be around other people who shared that priority.
But then he got organized, becoming an outspoken New York-based gay activist, going from protest to arrests.
It's about finding a purpose for your life in general. It's about being of service. And
then Sean got sick.
My viral load was 3.3 million. My CD4 cells were down to 1, when they're supposed to be over 1,000 or something. I had the purple lesions on my face and my body and in my lungs. And other people would look at me and they'd see the face of death.
Along with his doctors, he challenges conventional AIDS therapy.
Probably had, since I was diagnosed, 500 vials of blood.
Started taking medication only after he got sick and now interrupts his treatments.
Just sort of tired of being, tethered
yes,
to
well,
taking the drugs. I mean, it wasn't...
Well, that's a perfectly understandable feeling.
He wants to give his body a break from the toxic drugs.
You really feel like you're taking a poison, but it's a poison to counteract, another problem. So it just feels like the drug is sort of surging into my body, and it's like going to the tips of my fingers and my toes, and it's kind of like settling in and rattling some cages on the way, and I'm just sort of jittery.
Sean's philosophy of empowering people to make their own medical decisions drove him to create a magazine called Pause for HIV-positive people.
People with AIDS trust other people with AIDS more than virtually anyone else.
Now, after 20 years of living with AIDS, Sean has refocused his life again.
So this is my oxygen factory.
Moving away from street activism.
I wanted to get out of an urban ghetto, out of a gay ghetto. I wanted to be in a more diverse community in all sorts of different ways. When you have friends, just with people who have life-threatening illnesses, you deal with a lot of loss and sorrow. Hey, Ed. How are you?
How are you?
Pretty good.
He's now a developer in the quaint town of Milford, Pennsylvania.
My relationship with Sean and his involvement in the community has had very little to do with that part of his life.
His life revolves around this town and his several businesses.
What do we have for reservations tonight?
And not necessarily his illness.
It never, ever enters your mind. He's constantly moving and working, and he's like a visionary.
A visionary lucky enough to have survived countless close friends, 3 lovers, and 3 doctors, yet who still hasn't forgotten the other faces of AIDS.
How do I reconcile my incredible good fortune and access and success in treatment with, the tens of millions of people who are so desperately in need? I don't know how, other than to try and make our lives of some value.
Maria Hinojosa, CNN, Milford, Pennsylvania.